George. George is here. Hi, everyone. 1, 2. Is François coming? Okay. Hi, everyone. Are you all guys from Skopje or from Macedonia? What kind of audience do we have today? You know, we're Australia, Slovenia. Okay, so you know why you are in this one of the most important panels have ever taken place, actually. And well, we have some distinguished guests. Everyone will present themselves quickly. We are a bunch of complementary people, and we've discussed a lot amongst us and with logging on what we will try to, let's say, have as an output here. So we're not here to criticize. There are several procedures going on already in the country. We're not here to focus on what Macedonia is doing wrong, because things and issues have happened in many other countries. 3 weeks after Kočani, we had almost the same problem in Athens, by the way. And since we're here as private sector representatives, as citizens, we will try to simply put together some opportunities of collaboration with the public sector, with regulators, with policy owners and doers, and also say and emphasize on the role that we have, either as audiences, either as professionals, to pay attention on details and go on and so forth. So I'm George Perov. I'm a colleague of Login. I'm from Athens Music Week. I run a small company in Greece, and we act like a hub to try to support the music ecosystem. And as a French, I will give the first talk to Ilinka to quickly present herself, then to Marco, then to Andy, and finally to, least but not last, to Nick. Ilinka.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ilinka Ghishoiu. I'm from Romania. I'm a booker for 12 years, about now. I took a pause from music industry the last 2 years, and I worked in a publicity agency. But now I came back to my very big passion, music and artists. I've been in the period when Colectiv in Romania happened, been working very hard to grow in that period. It was 10 years ago. Yeah, so.
And we will develop.
Yeah.
Thank you. Marco?
Thank you. Okay. Hi, my name is Marco, and I come from Kočani. I'm a member of Support Kočani, which is a voluntary non-profit organization that has been helping the victims and the survivors for almost 9 months now, more than 8 months. And we have been providing general aid, such as financial aid and medical equipment and all kinds of needs they would need. So in private life, I'm working in the marketing sector with a US company, but in the voluntary organization, I'm a part of Support Kočani. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Marco. Mr. Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Murphy from Belfast, Northern Ireland. I work for a company called EventSec, which manages crowd safety mainly and security at large-scale events such as Oxygen Festival, Vital Festival, Belsonic. Sorry. I recently worked with Oasis. I was the head of security for it in Dublin, 84,000. Robbie Williams, 84,000. Electric Picnic, 84,000. So that's the type of level that we do. Manage maybe 100 outdoor shows a year, and then we work in the inside the arenas and the nightclubs and the smaller venues. So we're contracted by lots of people, including the police. We train police and fire. We advise local authorities, and we work in the Caribbean as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that one. So we work with West Indies Cricket, and we work in Guyana in South America, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, where the firemen are actually more important and more powerful than the police, because believe it or not, it's a bit of an anomaly. So we work about, St. Lucia and Barbados as well, and St. Kitts. So,
We'll get back to all those details.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hobbs.
I'm Nick Hobbs. My company's called Charmenko, and we're based in Istanbul. We work all over Eastern Europe as promoters, so we are responsible for hiring venues, booking artists, putting on shows, selling tickets, making and losing money, and dealing with the contradictions that can arise from maximizing income versus safety concerns.
A good resume, huh? A good resume. So let's dig into maybe the context and with your association, with the association, Marco. Maybe where's the connection at the moment with the government and with the authorities? How do you manage to work together to find solutions? And François is here.
Yeah, sorry I'm late because they asked me to be on another panel. So I'm
Okay,
really sorry.
so a little break, sorry, before Marco starts. You have 30 seconds, 40 seconds to
Yeah, really
say.
quickly, I work for a festival called Europavox. We're gonna celebrate the 20th anniversary, and I work for a venue called La Coopérative de Mai. We have 2 stages, 1,500 and a club of 400 since 25 years in France,
In Clermont.
in Clermont-Ferrand. It's in center in France.
Okay, thank you. So Marco, I met the intro again, and yeah, I think how can you say so many things in 5 minutes, but can you maybe resume where we stand, what you see moving, and what are the biggest concerns at the moment for tomorrow, for the future?
Yeah. So to answer your first part of your question with the collaboration and connection with the authorities and the, national and local. So Support Kočani was born due to the inactivity of the institutions, let's say, at the beginning, because there was so much chaos and grief and a lot of these negative emotions and anger in Kočani, but mostly it was relatives didn't know where their children were. People were showing up with fake bank accounts online, trying to use this situation to gain donations and money because donations were already starting to come from other organizations. And we decided to devise a centralized system where all this information were in one place and people can easily send money directly to the victims and the survivors because they were in such need of that in those moments, because people were going in different countries in hospital and they had like expenses like, I don't know, hotel stays and traffic, parking and so on and so forth. So that was the main thing that was happening after the fire. And furthermore, people were not trusting, let's say, any institutions due to the inactivity. It was only the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that took care of them, let's say, and that's where Support Kočani was created to establish a certain level of trust. And when we began working, we set out clear goals to help all the victims and all the survivors, and we proceeded with a level of transparency and with a level of showing what we worked and how we approach things. So that in the public and in Kočani, that resulted in a positive feedback from the people and from the community, and helped them slowly regain trust in people, let's say, because it was chaotic at the moment. And I think this evolves in a deeper issue. So like the main thing we could do as individuals. So I think that all changes in community first have to start from a personal level. So people need to change themselves, and people need to think about the community and not just themselves first in order to bring change. So, for example, if we as let's say people that are in power and in position to make decisions and changes, if they approach things with a level of accountability, of responsibility, and with the thought of how their actions are can leave consequences to other people that they have, let's say, that have elected them in those positions. If they think of the community first and not their well-being or their personal gains, I think that that would set a good example, and that would minimize all the risks, let's say, in a certain venue. So as of right now in Kočani, people are still grieving. The community is still, how do I say, rebuilding itself. Some people are willing to go out, let's say, in venues. Some people are willing to move forward, but others, like when we talk to some of the survivors, they're not feeling safe to go into enclosed spaces or spaces where there are a lot of people. And I think if we work individually on ourselves first, and then on basic solutions, like I don't know, establishing a clear pathway for reopening and a clear regulations, that would mean a lot to the community.
I would like to ask you, and it will be a bridge to go to Ilinka. Again, as we've discussed, it's not a blame game today. Of course, citizens have a share, the governments have a share, the regions have a share, the municipalities have a share, the private sector. But okay, let's start from the problem. Okay, we are in a region. I'm from Greece. You're from North Macedonia. Our states are recent. Our civilizations are old, but our states, the structural, everything is. Since the time that the association was created, do you see a better relation with the institutions, with the government, the region? Did it help that you together took some lead? Is it your role? What's the next step? Quickly, sorry, so that we go to Ilinka.
Yeah. Quickly,
was it missing? Was it missing? Was it important that you grouped the victims and you took this challenge to put people together?
It was more than necessary, because, as I mentioned, there was a lot of inactivity. So the local and state authorities sort of didn't took action at that time when was it most crucial to take action. And that's why a group of 30 volunteers came together in a single office and worked for, at first, 1 week only, just to bring up the website and all the information together. And after that, when we started bringing in medical equipment and medical patches and creams for the burn victims, we mostly gained unsatisfactory comments or remarks or disengagement from the authorities instead of cooperation. So we set out a clear message that we would be welcome to collaborate with any institution, because we're volunteers that had no prior experience in this, and we need all the help we can get. And instead, we just had roadblocks and how do you say it, like setbacks from them, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, so that's something to discuss with the team here to see where we stand today. Ilinka, from, 10 years after, and thank you for sharing all the information you shared amongst us.
Yeah, well, for us, Colectiv was a shock, like, I don't know, any other incident like this, but it shifted the entire industry, but not only the industry, but the society. I mean, after the fire, there were lots of protests, and immediately after, the Prime Minister resigned. This was big because it didn't happen till the revolution in '89. And also a lot of public officials, including authorities and fire department, were investigated, because we had all these regulations, but they didn't apply it. I mean, nowadays, if you want to have a big event or a concert in a club, they are coming to check if you are okay with everything. The clubs, they need permission to have concerts there, and they need the paperwork before applying to concerts. But if I am an agency and I want to go there to have a concert with one of my artists, I need to know if everything is okay regarding the papers, and they are coming, the people from the fire representatives, they are coming and checking everything before the show. So yeah, that changed. A lot of clubs in that period closed. Most of them because they weren't with all the papers okay, and a lot of them changed, and they reapplied to be okay with everything and to be in the law with the.
But because you've exchanged, we prepare the panels. You've exchanged some procedures, which I think in our case here is what we're looking for. So it takes two to tango, right? So on one hand, you have what the government needed to change, and on the other hand, you needed a kind of citizen-led initiative, which you named as.
It's called AROC. It means Romanian Association of Culture and Concerts. It gathered all biggest promoters, organizations in Romania that are working in this music industry, and together we assemble a set of things that we want to change, a set of things that we want to do, and we went to talk to the government, and some of them changed the rules, and some of them they are new. Some of the rules. It was a big change because before Colectiv, we weren't at the same table. Promoters, managers, bookers, we weren't at the same pay. But this incident brought us together in order for us to have a healthy cultural sector and to make changes, because everyone wanted something to change. Leave aside the politics. That's harder. But the public, like in Macedonia as well, didn't want to come to the concerts because they were afraid. They were afraid. They were entering in a club and they were looking for exits. They were looking for exit signs. I still remember the first concert we made after Colectiv. It was in a big hall where most of the time it's a club, and the fire alarm started. I froze because it was the first concert and the fire alarm started because of the haze that we had on the stage. Nothing happened. It wasn't something serious. But that club ensured that everything is in place, even for haze, called pyro. The law regarding pyro changed because we were back then, I think, allowed to have heat pyro in the clubs, but now we are not allowed, only cold, like confetti, haze, and everything. It's cold.
Okay.
So.
So I will thank you. I will bridge this with some facts. When something happens, it's in the human nature. There's a focus. Then time pass, and things got forgotten, right? So what we'll do now, we'll go to Nick to speak about some basics that exist, and then we'll go to Andy to say, okay, we have the basics, but we need to work and keep the teams, keep the education going, so that when time flies. First, you don't forget. Two, you adapt, and you have lifelong learning. But so, Nick, you've pointed out many basic points, which even nowadays everyone can find everywhere. So, where would you start from the basic rules that should be a checklist, maybe? Or
the way I look at it is, as a promoter, and I try and have a culture in the company as a whole where we're all thinking about this stuff and we're all concerned, and we don't cut corners. And we don't take risks with people's lives. And I just made a list of what I call the premises. And it would be very interesting, Andy, if you disagree with them or you want to compliment any of them or you feel I've missed something that I shouldn't have. So first, any fire in any structure is both predictable and avoidable. It's never an act of God. It's always caused by humans. Structures are built by humans, and what happens in those structures is caused by humans. Any enclosed space used by the public requires risk assessment and mitigation for fire, structural failures, crowd crushes, etc. That seems pretty obvious. Most fire-related deaths and injuries are caused by smoke and panic, not directly by flames and heat. This has a consequence, which I'll come to now. Sufficient emergency lighting and adequate, easily openable exits accessible by everyone in any enclosed space is a sine qua non. In other words, the consequence of smoke and panic is that you don't know where the exits are. You can't see them. You're confused. You might be drunk. Whatever. And so the provision for being able to get out of a space which has suddenly gone from being somewhere you want to be to somewhere you want to get out of really quickly is the consequence of that is panic. And if you can't see where you're supposed to go, there's a major risk of crushing, and a consequence of that would be death by smoke inhalation and whatever. The exit access is the primary factor in deciding venue capacity, not floor capacity.
Yep.
Very important point. You can pack a lot of people on a floor, but if they can't get out, then that's not your safe capacity. Your safe capacity is determined by how people can get in and out of a space, at whatever size the space is. The primary parties involved in the local organization for and regulation of a show are co-responsible in the event of any kind of disaster, namely the venue, the promoter or organizer, and the local authorities, which includes the city council, the fire department, the police department. Who is legally responsible might be a different question, but I'm talking about moral responsibility. Negligence is playing Russian roulette with people's lives, and that is essentially, I think, a criminal matter, not just a moral matter. So in other words, you don't intend to kill people, but people die, or they might not die if you have something, nothing goes really wrong. But if they do die, it's because you were playing Russian roulette with their lives. That's, for me, at the core of the notion of negligence. The important point also, there should be a level playing field so that cutting corners on safety is not accepted practice, not legal practice, and everyone has to run their business following the same rules. So that venues, because venues, promoters, and artists have a tendency, naturally enough, to prioritize maximizing income, which means maximizing attendance. And obviously that can easily be in contradiction with crowd safety. So that official regulation and enforcement, as well as self-regulation, are essential. A couple of last points. Learn from the experience of others, like if Macedonia had learned from the experience of the Colectiv fire in Romania, maybe the Kojani fire would never have happened. That's just learning from experience. And I think there should be European-wide or EU-wide standards on all of these things, but unfortunately I don't think that there are. So those were the points I wanted to, the premises I wanted to line.
Yeah, and thank you, Nick, because you actually, I like to improvise. You're making a very clear, human, basic approach on things that anyone, even if you're not in regulations, can have access to. And maybe, Andy, I'm thinking of going to France before coming to you, after all, because we have a case, a fact that François mentioned, where you are in France, a country with regulations, a country which had also so many issues with terrorism, so venues, as you might know, have been targeted very widely. But although there are regulations, and that will be the bridge with you, Andy, things can still happen by how would you call this, François?
Yeah, I think we do our best, and in France, as you say, we have many rules, and we have to follow. The story of music in France, it could be interesting to exchange. First thing, me, I'm just a booker, and I'm a help artist. I'm not a technical. I don't know this thing, but of course I experience. because I work in this venue since 25 years. And I want to share you the French experience. I think it could be interesting for you. We never have this sort of thing, fire things, but we have bad things happen. But like, of course, as you say, the Bataclan, since 10 years. And as you say, it's human thing. And you can fight against human, but you have to be responsible. And this is the first thing I want to share to you. When you are open a club, you have the boss has to follow. Sorry, I have to follow what I write because it's complicated in French and in English. Sorry. So yes, when you want to open a club, you have to follow a training about safety and security, and you receive a license. And license is under your name. So the first thing, you have the responsible of the club. The first thing. After that, when you have to open a club, before you receive the license, and after that you have a security commission who come to your venue or to come to your festival, etc. And they say yes or no.
Checklist.
Yes, the checklist. And if they say no, you could, for example, it's happened for us, not about exit, etc., but I have the list. But it's about a stock problem. So we ask to our mayor. The mayor, and the mayor is really powerful in France, and he accept. But so if he accept, if something happen, it's under his responsibility
as well. So it's a shared responsibility.
Yeah, it's important. But after that, so if you have the security, they say yes. After that, you open your club, okay? But if you open your club, you have a list to make it. The first thing, you have to have a technical manager. The same thing, he has to follow a specific security training and receive a diploma for managing the venue. And each venue has a classification, depends on the capacity. For example, La Copé, as we are more of 700 people, it's ERP2, and you have to prove you have this thing.
That you have the standards.
Yes. After that, of course, you have security guards, so you have everything. But the security guards, again, have to follow training about health, because
specifically for a live venue.
Yes, they have to. This thing is really important. Second thing, now I think this thing arrived since 5-6 years ago, so it's really recent. Mm-hmm. We have to have a guy or girl, ASR. He has to stay in the club, and if he's really the fire guy, if something about
so
the
he's
fire,
in the crowd.
yes, and in not security. His job is just only in the club, and if something happens, he's here for that, only for that. And it's an obligation. Of course, everything on this list costs, because all these people have to be paid.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's why when you open a club in France, it's complicated to win money. That's why we have helps in France. But sorry, I continue, and I'm close to finish because
François.
Sorry,
because I know what we have prepared, but
yeah.
To make the bridge with Andy and start the dialogue all together. I've asked François to tell you all this because, as you understand, there's a full checklist. It's a very old country, very structured. But still, you told me a story.
Yeah.
That
I have the
although
story.
you have all those regulations.
Yeah, because all the things you try to do your best, to welcome people, to be sure for the health of the people. In 2001, we have a gig with a band called Funky Family, a really huge band in France, and we are totally sold out, 1,500 capacity. And someone, he grabbed the fire hose and sprayed the stage. So he destroyed the stage. So you understand what I say? Okay, just to be sure. So we canceled the night, and the gig was finished. So everything was, we could say, okay. But if this guy,
what happened actually?
Go to
there
the
was
audience
a kind of panic,
with this,
right?
I think, we had a panic, and I think we could have some deaf people. And that's exactly what you say. It's human. And sometimes human could make really stupid things. And this day, and now in the venue, each gig, we have a guy, the security guy, really close of the...
The fire hose.
Yeah. And because we never think that it could happen, this thing. It was really the beginning of La Copea. In 2001, it was the first year that we opened. And so that's why I want to share it with you, because you never know.
So it's to share that things like this can happen anywhere in the world. Okay, so it's not because we are in a small country, it's not because we are in the Balkans, it's not because we are in Macedonia. But yeah, it's also pretty strong point that actually it's a sector of activity. It's not just a concert. So there's a whole structure behind it. And Andrew, we're coming to you. Where's the continuity between, and where's the application between having a regulation, adapting to new facts, and keeping all this harmony, let's say, together? How do you do that? What are your
fire? I think everybody made very valid points, and sorry, I'd just like to say how sorry I am what happened. It's there's a lot of victims here, and in Hong Kong, it's very topical at the minute. So our thoughts are with you, and keep up your good work. Fire, fires happen. Electrical faults. The amount of times I've seen electrical faults, happen, and the UK is an example I'll give, Ireland. They're very regulated. And that's probably because the Isle of Man Summerland disaster in 1973 was the first big one where 50 people died. It's a small island between Ireland and England. So that changed, and there was legislation. That there was a thing called the Primrose Guide came out called the Guide to Existing Places of Entertainment, which was guidance to tell people operating venues how to do it more safely. And then in Ireland we had like the Stardust Disco in 1981. It was very topical because the Irish government only apologised last year to the victims for the actual investigation, the way they did it. So, and the Prime Minister came out and said, "Look, we're sorry for 45 years later, as it happens." But so fires have happened, and you find in the guidance or regulations follow. The UK, there's a building standard, which is British Standard 99999, 4 nines. Which determines how a nightclub or a venue, for example, is built. So before you have a venue, these regulations are put in place, or if you want to change a venue or use it for the purposes of entertainment, those regulations are pretty strict. They'll look at emergency evacuations. I think what Nick said was very good. Capacity is set by your emergency exits and by the width, and the guidance in the UK basically says that 82 people should be able to pass through a meter at any one point. So that's 82 people per minute on a meter. Yeah. So that's how it's guided. And on an indoor venue, you have to have a minimum of 2. And like just in Macedonia yesterday, I had lunch somewhere. It was very good, but I just looked at the way in because it was just in my head. There was only one way in, and there's no way out. And it was a barbecue restaurant. It's in a long corridor. But that's because that's what's been accepted, and that's what's normal, and you're a developing country. These things will change. They have to change, because people won't tolerate it, and tourists won't tolerate it. So, these things take time to evolve, and like Ireland was a very different place 50 years ago than it is today.
Maybe to use your experience, and you keep the floor, but maybe, so between creating the regulation, training the professionals, involving the audiences.
Well, look, even I think it's a bit twee, but sometimes, when you go to these conferences, people say, "Here's your comfort breaks, here's your emergency exit." So it's about building a culture of safety. I don't like to see kids getting hurt at concerts. I do Slane Castle, and one of the regulations at Slane Castle, where we put 83,000 people into it, which I'm not overly comfortable with, but we've done it for years, and so it's accepted, but it's a very tough job for me to manage, particularly at the end of the night, getting people out of it. But one of the regulations was we used to have fire marshals, and we used to have guys with little backpacks, because the kids used to light fires at the end of at Slane, the newspapers and stuff. So that was a license condition. So in the UK, you have what's called an entertainment license, and in the Republic of Ireland, which determines then how you operate your venue. That'll determine your exits, your capacity, how many maybe security people you should have on, what your electrics are, The application then, for example, of checks that you're meant to do. The UK is based on a risk assessment, which Nick talked, risk assessment model, that each venue has to have a risk assessment and a fire risk assessment. And then it has to be updated every 6 months, and the staff are meant to be trained on it. So that would be just like checking your exits. Like checklists, I think, are a good thing. You know, you get a checklist before you get a band on stage, and you check, have I enough security? Have my exits been checked? Are my fire extinguishers working? Small things that just then people start to develop, and it becomes the norm. But, you know, even things people work in festivals, like campsites. You know, I've seen lots of fires in campsites. We used to give people at Donington, like I worked in Donington with Monsters of Rock and so, we used to give people wood to light fires, you know. And people used to come in a car and take the roof off and set it on fire, you know, and it was all great fun. But like the, you know, the hazards were obvious and the dangers were obvious. So it's, you know, that's only 25 years ago. It's changed, you know.
Maybe, sorry to ask again to go there. Let's say we started from scratch.
Yeah.
Which kind of organization does it involve to create the regulations?
Well, the regulation,
is
if
there
you're
a
going to have
dialogue
a place of entertainment, is the guidance and the regulation. So building control, for example, in the local authority. So they'll have a fire safety expert, and you'll have to do a fire risk assessment before you get a license.
Of course.
That'll determine your exits routes and your evacuation time, which is 82 persons per metre on a concert venue by and large, but also in a nightclub or a bar, it should be 2.5 minutes to get everybody out.
Okay.
So if you think of how difficult that is, you know, it's quite tight. Arenas, for concert arenas, for example, we have one in Belfast that we manage, goes up to 11,500 people. We have 4 minutes to investigate and deal with an alarm.
Wow.
And then we have to get people out. And if we don't, then it automatically kicks in, the evacuation kicks in. So we get a smoke detector or a life emergency system. We know where it is, what room it is. Quite often it's showers, artists using showers, and sets off a detector. But we have to go investigate it and then report back and nullify it, otherwise we're going to evacuation. Luckily, because there's a bit of liability attached, if we do it wrong, we haven't done it wrong too many times. You know? But those are the things that are just, you know, normal now to us, and the entertainment license is normal, and it dictates what we can do, and you get inspections. But the risk assessment process is important. You know, training your staff. You know, like we did Robbie Williams in Phoenix Park in Dublin, 2,350,000 people we put in. It's crazy. But we had the food vans, you know, the build-up of rubbish at the food vans. The gas, are the food vans using gas? Is it regulated? Is it checked? Are they disposing of their rubbish? We had a food van at that tossed over because it was so dense with people.
Of course.
It actually turned over and it was fat, oil, you know, caught fire. So little things that sometimes you don't expect can just happen. In the UK, every venue, every piece of electrical equipment has to be pat checked every year. So it has to be checked for electrical faults and stickered and dated. That's a regulation. Because quite often things catch fire. I was in Guyana 2 years ago in South America, and the Regency Hotel caught fire with 100 of our staff there.
Wow.
A guy's phone charger. And the fire standards in Guyana are pretty poor. So we had to evacuate it. You can see it online. It was pretty grim.
So regulations,
Regulations, but training, and then
training.
I liked when I go to a hotel to actually know my way out. Just standard, because some night I might have a few drinks and fall asleep and not hear the alarm. But it's just little things that get into people's head. And I think Macedonia, it'll come. Unfortunately, what's happened is terrible, and but these things tend to evolve. I was trying to think of some other good examples, like concert sites. Flares now are a big problem at concerts.
Yeah. This is what happened in.
And not even the fact that somebody might get burnt and get burnt very badly, because they're some of them are the sea ones that are used at sea. The kids sometimes throw them. So we have fire people now just designed with gloves and all to deal with that. But we had Kneecap in Belfast in an indoor venue, and they let 2 fires off. So if you can think of the smoke, it was horrendous, horrendous. And the kids thought it was good fun, but you couldn't see 2 yards in front of you, So just silly little things that kids themselves. So now we have to deploy dogs sometimes to try and sniff for gunpowder to catch the flares. And if we don't do that and somebody gets burnt, I was sued in the courts about a year ago for a guy who burnt his hand holding a flare.
You were sued.
I was sued. Yeah, we won it. And the judge said, we will not, because he'd grabbed the flare twice. He said, if you'd have taken it once, we would have found it in favour. Because you grabbed it twice, I'm afraid I'm finding. So he had said it was passed to him, and he burnt his hand, and he wanted to sue us for burning his hand. You know, so these are the things you're up against. So like we now have to sometimes have a dog, because if we don't have that in our risk assessment, and somebody gets burnt, then we're seen as liable. I've also evacuated a few venues because of terrorism. To be honest, coming from Belfast, we had a sort of funny past, or not so funny. But I have had to evacuate a race course one time with a bomb in it, and a boxing match out of a stadium. So, and they're not easy to do, you know. But being from Belfast, we were always a bit blasé. But you know, it's like get your systems right. Like an evacuation will never be nice. It'll never be like it says in the textbook. So practice it and be dynamic. Understand that your best laid plans might not come to fruition. You might have to change something very quickly. You might have to say, like we had a boxing match at the stadium, and we had an explosive put in one end of the venue. So what I had to do was take everybody and push them out the other way. So my exits were pretty congested, but I didn't stop the show. We managed it. The show happened. The people didn't know, but we just made them all go the different way. So little things like that make you sharper. The Caribbean, I'm in the Caribbean working sometimes, and people are frying chicken, and you're like, and Guyana has now hit oil and gas, and so it's a very rich country now compared to what it was. Mm-hmm. Like I was at a stadium recently, and they had the big gas canisters, just all lined up at a window, with a little flimsy thing, and people smoking near it and stuff. And I was like, if that blows, that's going to blow the stadium. But this is just because the people don't understand. They've never had the training or the. But when you explain and show them, they want to learn. So
thinking about this.
Yeah, they're not thinking about it. They're just thinking, what are you talking about? You're crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and they're blocking exits with food carts, and it's like.
So, I'm thinking here as a half French, half Greek. I'm putting myself always when I see all those foreign people speaking in conferences coming from big countries. What is effective? What is possible in our countries when we think, okay, Andy says nice things, but it sounds like he's from another planet, or is he not from another planet? And where is this opportunity since logging?
There has to be a dialogue, doesn't
there?
That's
the thing.
There has to be a dialogue with the authorities. So obviously after tragedies like in Macedonia and also in Romania, where countries which are in some ways where the regulations or the regulatory environment is not as advanced as it is in France or the UK, there has to be a dialogue with the authorities so they understand that actually they have a job to do, and it's about learning from best practice. It's very easy to find out. You can send a fire officer to London or to Paris, and they could find all the best practice and whatever, and enforce that. Make the necessary regulations, and then you have to enforce. You have to educate the organizers, the venue organizers, the venues. You have to educate the audience as well, which of course only works up to a point. If you're dealing with kids, you have to take responsibility for them. You are responsible. You can't expect them to self-discipline. It doesn't happen.
Sorry, Nick, just something that Nick said I think is very
Absolutely.
relevant. In terms
That's
of
the part where we exchange and...
Yeah, in terms of also in the UK and Ireland, someone is responsible. So you have a safety officer at concerts. The promoter is ultimately responsible in the UK. In Ireland, it's delegated to the event controller, who's all powerful at football grounds in the UK. The safety officer is the most important person once the stadium opens. And they have all authority, even more than the owner or the promoter. Absolutely. So somebody is responsible, and the corporate manslaughter legislation now that's come in means that people are now being held to account. So making somebody responsible is good. You are in charge of fire. Go and check. Look, the authorities are the authorities. I don't want to criticize the authorities in Macedonia, so I'm not going to criticize anybody, but you can't expect always a policeman to be an expert in everything. They're generalists. They arrest people. They investigate crime. They're not safety experts.
Absolutely.
Some firemen
are in the club.
Firemen, yeah. So what firemen are not necessarily understand the whole nightclub and the crowd dynamic and stuff sometimes. So what there is obviously gaps. So help people and train the people and get expertise into the fire department. Like I work with people in Trinidad and they're firemen, but they don't know very much about crowds or stuff. So we do training with them now. train people and empower them, the police and the authorities, instead of expecting them to have all the answers. So I would say get a few specialists. We're happy to train anybody we can. We're happy to share our stuff.
It's tricky because, of course, in theory, you'd say, well, there should be a venues association. There should be a promoters association. But in many countries, there aren't. I live in Turkey. There's no venues association, and there's no promoters association.
Absolutely not.
So it's up to the individual venue and the individual promoter and the individual local authority, and they're all different. And they will have different levels of what you could call awareness.
Commitment, understanding.
That this is an issue, that this is something they should care about, because a lot of local authorities, and I'm not saying that applies in Macedonia, but in Turkey, for example, a lot of local authorities, they're there, it's their job, they turn up at 9 o'clock in the morning and they leave at 5 p.m. And in between they stamp a few pieces of paper. They are not proactive.
Yeah.
Then when something happens, when there is a tragedy, we got to do something.
And the truth is the governments and our politics are not so structured, so there's, everything is cluttered. So indeed, no associations, no, policy authorities compliant. I want to ask you, Ilinka, from your experience, since you are from the region, you are the Balkans with us. What was the role, to this dialogue? Is it still alive? The association you mentioned, how does it work? Because maybe Marco, Login, and all the other colleagues they have in Macedonia need to have this empowerment, maybe, like to put things on the table. Everyone has mentioned dialogue.
Yeah.
So it's not a responsibility from someone. Obviously, the audience is the last responsible at the moment, but this is a process. You need to start. It will not happen in 1 year. Then it must not be forgotten. From your experience, Ilinka, do you have any suggestions, best practice that you can share with us?
Well, now that you mentioned, I remember that after Colectiv, we had the law about smoking inside. We didn't have it till then. So maybe it was something from UA to stop smoking inside, but I think that made the process more quickly to be applied. So since 2016, after Colectiv, smoking inside is banned. And to answer your question, the organization, yes, it still exists. I don't know if they are still having meetings with the government, but that was a crucial moment to have it, because we were rating what we want to do and what we are doing at that time to create some events, concerts, festivals, and so on. And we understand from their side that they are not aware of the amount of work that we are doing to keep the cultural sector alive. They were outside this cultural...
This reality.
Yeah. What is written versus what we are really doing on...
What you are doing and what you can do as well, because there's the part you
and
can do.
A
and
lot of
there's the part...
things have improved from them. I mean, I do not remember since I was a kid till 2015, till Colectiv, one authority to come to one event. I don't remember. I do remember a lot of clubs, small clubs, where you had one entrance and one exit. They were the same. Those clubs now don't exist anymore. They are not allowed to have a permit. This is, in one way, it's very okay. In another way, it's not, because all the small bands that grew...
We enter another problem.
Yeah.
How do you support
They
the next
don't
generation?
have now a place to play for their friends, for their parents, and the music sector is... It's very hard to book a small band in a big club. So that's not the
side effect.
Yeah, it's a side effect. Also, a lot of now at every event I see a government representative or security representative that is coming 2-3 hours before the show, and you're like, will we pass this time? I mean, and in all of this, we have to not forget about the costs of everything, because you need to have more security people. You need to have more resources, and everything costs. And when you are creating an event, a concert, and everything, you have to take in consideration that costs are there for this thing.
Money.
Yeah,
Money. But I mean,
it's
from
a very important thing
from
as well.
the basic regulation that Nick mentioned. By the way, we are very happy to share with Login, and so that he can share it with all of you, many elements from the research, from associations, from rules and regulations, I guess, that also Andy can give. But I mean, we have approximately 7 minutes, and I'm wondering if someone has a specific question to make, or otherwise we continue. Anyone? No questions?
So just part of the regulations again, in the UK, the security staff have to be licensed now.
Yeah.
So they have to do a level 2 qualification, which is about 30 hours training. They have to get a criminal record check. They have to pass this before they can work in a nightclub. And a lot of that is on safety. You know, there's a lot of safety stuff involved in that.
Do promoters have to be licensed in the UK?
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure if they do.
I don't think
I'm not
so.
a promoter, so...
No, but I mean,
thank God.
It's an interesting point. I'm a promoter. I've been a promoter for 50 years. I don't have a license.
I don't think...
That's the thing. I mean, that's exactly, since we have no questions, I mean, one of the ideas would be, since none of us here, except maybe Marco or Login, who's maybe running somewhere, some tips based on the reality here. Where could the private sector start from?
I'd like to just, because it's kind of tips, this will be quick. I extracted this from, this was a reaction, an internal reaction of the British Fire, the Association of British Fire
officers.
Men and women, officers, to the Kochani fire. It provoked quite a lot of discussion internally, and they put some stuff online, and it's quite interesting. It's very simple, very basic, but so why are nightclubs particularly vulnerable? Fire safety in nightclubs requires a higher level of vigilance due to a number of well-known factors. Crowds of people unfamiliar with the layout of the building. Alcohol or other substances that may impair judgment. Loud music and an often heightened emotional atmosphere. Low lighting or disorientating special effects. Secured or obstructed emergency exits. Decorative materials, especially around events and holidays, that may be highly flammable. These elements combine to create a setting where fire can start quickly, spread rapidly, and lead to confusion during evacuation. Part 2, preventing the next tragedy. To reduce the likelihood of similar incidents, action is needed on several fronts. Restrict pyrotechnics. Only approved, professionally operated indoor effects should be permitted, or maybe as the Romanian one, only, what do you call them, cold pyro.
Cold pyro.
Enforce capacity limits. Overcrowding significantly raises the risk of harm in an emergency. Maintain escape routes. Emergency exits must be accessible, well marked, and never obstructed. I just give a small personal example of that. I did a gig in Belgrade recently as a promoter, and I went to the venue. My team was there, and we'd never worked at this venue before. I went to the venue during sound check, and I saw there's something wrong. And I looked around the venue, and there were no fucking fire exit signs, not one. And I said, we have to fix this now. And also, there were all kinds of obstructions which you when the venue was light, you could see them, but when it was dark, you couldn't see them because everything was painted black.
course.
We had to put tape on all the obstructions. We had to put temporary fire exit signs, etc., etc. So, next, raise public awareness. Young people, the primary patrons of these venues, should be taught to note exits and report overcrowding or blocked escape routes. Improve staff training. Door supervisors and venue staff should be trained in evacuation procedures and fire safety basics. That's it.
So, thank you, Nick. Marco, again, any questions? Somebody that needs a contact, a tip? No?
Just, sorry, one little thing, just an interesting one that we had at an 80,000 concert in Dublin a few months ago. I'll not name the band, but portable vapes in a bin, they explode. And we had a guy who got burnt quite badly.
Portable, sorry?
The vapes, the little
okay.
vapes.
The
So
what?
the portable vapes that
Vapes.
people,
Oh, yes.
so they put them into a bin, and then the guy went to the crusher, and it caught fire, blew up, exploded, and the guy got pretty badly burnt. Cleaner.
Because they don't burn, they
Yeah.
heat.
Yeah, but it exploded, and he got burnt pretty badly.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So just I'd never heard of it, but it's just something to you're doing concerts and you gather them up and you go to crush them. There's a chance they might
Yeah,
they might
you
go.
never know.
Yeah.
Like Nick said, there's human error every
Yeah.
time. There's never.
We don't
an
hear
act
you.
of
But I
God.
couldn't believe it. Like I was shocked at that one. I just thought it was just something that you wouldn't have thought about, you know. But it's now in the risk assessment.
Yep.
You know, to check if you're the cleaners, to check that there isn't portable vapes before you go to crush them.
No, I really want to try and see if it's the right moment. But Marco, I guess you've already brainstormed most of the things we've said on this panel. My question is, because with logging, with all of us here, most of us knows each other, and we're not just here sitting in a panel. We're here to help. If the legacy, if the title of Andrew, of Nick, of anyone here can help you, do you have, is it your role? Do you have a dialogue with the authorities? Is there a dialogue at the moment happening in Macedonia for tomorrow, for the next day, for the future?
There's always a chance of opening a dialogue. As of now, there's no, let's say, internal connection between Support Kočani as an organization and the authorities. Between local authorities, yes, like we can invite anyone from this panel to come to Kočani, to come to Support Kočani, and to discuss the ideas.
And it's not
discuss
even about this
improvements.
panel, it's just to say
Yeah.
that this panel leads
Of
to
course.
regulatory from different
course.
countries, from Romania, which
Yeah.
is close, so
Yeah.
it's not only...
Everyone here
somebody
made
with a
really
difficult
valid points
accent like
and
Andrew.
really nice points about regulations and what could be done to maybe prevent another disaster. But in Macedonia, and especially in Pulse, the night fire, the layers go deeper than that, because let's say the venue didn't even have the license; it had a fake license, and there were other things that are corruption involved. And I like Andy's idea about having a person responsible, because no one likes to take the responsibility and take the blame, let's say, for this event. So everyone is passing like around, it was not me, this is not my signature, something like that. But if we have like a person that's responsible, like a fire marshal, I don't know what they're called.
A safety person, actually.
Yeah, you could ensure safety there.
Safety officer.
Which, by the way, sounds more realistic, because we are in countries which the money is not floating
course.
everywhere, so maybe having
Yeah.
at least one trained person per venue
you could
could
have
be a
tra-
start
yeah,
as well, no?
That's the way.
Also, I would say that in a city or a small town, even more so, the local authority has to have a system for knowing when something is licensed or not licensed. You know, you can't hide a venue with 500 people in it. The police and the local authority are going to know about it, or the police will know about it and tell the local authority. And there should be a system of checking: does it have a license? And it shouldn't just be left.
There was no communication there, because since the opening of the nightclub in Kočani, since 2012 until the fire, no local inspector went into the club officially to assess the property and say, hey, you have all the regulations and this is a nightclub that can function properly. So
I think there's
for 12 or 13 years.
Very valid point, Marco says. There, cities tend to be well versed, well trained. Like Dublin's different than other parts of Ireland. Belfast is very regular, and the skills of the local authority and the local fire people and the local police vary, because some policemen are dealing with country issues. Like Claremont's a nice place, but you go out past Claremont, it's like lots of green fields, you know. So the gendarme there is going to be a different guy than the guy in the city centre. He's going to have a different skill set, different training, different requirements. And you find that in local authorities. So you quite often see in a country, one country might have various different systems, you know, and different skills, and, you know, what's acceptable in one city might not be in another. So, you know, there isn't a European-wide guidance as far as I know. So France is different than Ireland. Ireland's different than Belgium, you know, and I've worked in nearly all the countries, you know, they're all different, you know. So, and in the UK, you'll see vast differences, you know, if, you know, from a fire officer in Manchester, for example. I worked in the Commonwealth Games. I was the chief steward, so I opened the City of Manchester Stadium. So we were detailed lots of plans, but the officer in Manchester City Council was very, very skilled because he was dealing with Manchester United and Manchester City. So he was Rodney Burrows, you call him, a very, very good guy, you know. But then you get somebody in a different city or just doesn't have that experience, you know. So it's about learning, sharing, you know, trying to look at training, trying to develop as a person. Lifelong, you know, like that thing with the vapes, I just was like, gosh, I could never have thought of that. You know, just little things that you learn every day, you know.
And I just want to say one thing, because you talk about federation, and we have a really important federation of clubs in France, called Fedelima, and they created a networking of different federations in Europe, and they pass their time to make lobby. And to
Live DMA is one of them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think this is maybe one of the key, because these people they pass their time to discuss with the authorities and to explain to authorities it's so important, the proof, to have rules, and they can, I think they could be the good people to help you.
That's exactly, thank you so much for saying this. We are a few minutes out. I don't know if we can still take one or two, but that's why, being, as I said, half French, half Greek, I wanted to make a reality check between the nice things we hear from big countries, which had an industrial revolution 200 years ago, and we had the Ottomans 200 years ago, so we were not playing in the same garden. Okay.
Well, Rhode Island, there was a fire in 2003 where 100 people died.
But that's why
in the States,
maybe
you know?
For the end here, I was keeping one simple, effective idea coming from let's say bottom up, okay? The clubs could have one person with training, which is independent of the dialogue that can happen. So then you need federations, but yes, that's one of the problems, François, in the region. We don't have venues associations, so no one can represent itself to speak with the government. So the government obviously doesn't receive somebody from one club in the office.
You know,
so it's an egg and chicken problem. But
maybe a quick question for Marco and Elinka. Do you think, because both of you have direct and recent experience of fire tragedies in your two countries, do you think that those tragedies have now led to a situation in Macedonia and in Romania where they wouldn't happen again?
As of now, I don't think so, because no major regulations have been imposed since the Cotrani fire. Locally, let's say, other venues are still opening up, still working, and the public doesn't know if things are improving. So we don't know if there is inspection running, we don't know if the venues have capacity limits, what are their limits, if they have enough exit signs, fire extinguishers, and just so the basic things, let's say, not those advanced things that you were talking about in your respective countries. But I think local authorities and the government need to work harder and need to impose real changes and real regulations, so we could all see the changes are happening, and in order to prevent another disaster.
So we hope to be able to help you lobby. Don't be afraid of the word. Lobby doesn't mean envelope only. Lobby means represent people and act in favor. So I guess we have the consent of everyone of this panel to support Marco and anyone in Macedonia for that.
Let's have Elinka also for Romania, the same question.
Well, hopefully it will never happen again. The chances now, after 10 years, are less, because we started from 1 year from 2015-16 to take in consideration all the rules, and the authorities seemed like they understood that they need to be there for us and to help us, and hopefully the chances are getting less and less for one event like this to happen again. I mean, it didn't happen till then, nothing, so hopefully
Knock on wood.
better days are coming.
Marco, good luck. I don't know, I mean, my English is not good. Be brave. Whenever all of us can help, luckily we are experienced people, we know about politics, we know about politicians, and we understand that when you want to change things, it's not about blaming, but about suggesting solutions. So, and the same is here for everyone. It takes many to do the changes. Thank you for being all here. I hope we can help Marco, and bon courage for the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.